Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inspired and Empowered Living TV show and podcast. We are live on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, and my YouTube channel. And today we are going to be continuing to talk about breaking free, transforming self-sabotaging behaviors, part 3. And we'll talk about what you can do to identify the root causes of your self-sabotaging behaviors. And today, learn tools, practical tools and strategies to break free from destructive patterns. Join us live so that you can ask the questions and make the comments in the chat. And together, let's create a life and a business you love. And I'm your host, Nanci Deutsch, licensed clinical social worker, certified hypnotherapist, intuitive breakthrough expert, and certified business coach. And I combine my counseling, coaching, and intuitive abilities to transform your life. To transform your life. Okay, obviously to transform your light too, also. And the show is not a replacement for therapy or counseling. It is for educational purposes only. So last week, I talked about, I had the list of self-sabotaging behaviors. Now, I want you to know, those of you who listen live, and I know, and those of you who are listening, you may want that list. And I talked about getting a PDF. So I'm still in the process of doing that. I haven't forgotten. And you're going to get a list of the behaviors and what you can do to help you be able to overcome those self-sabotaging behaviors that affect you in your life and in your business. So stay tuned. As soon as I have them hot off the press, I will let you know. So let's talk. I know Anastasia had talked about, she had asked if I had done the whole list. And what I've done is I've expanded and I have created a few more in each category that will also talk about those self-sabotaging behaviors. So, when you talk or think about your mindset and your belief system, if you're thinking scarcity and you're thinking there's limitation and you're believing in not enough money, not enough time, not enough opportunities, that is a self-sabotaging behavior. And so really, because the truth is that the universe, that God, higher power, that we are actually abundant, but it's our fears that come up that put us into the scarcity mindset, into the lack and into the limitations. And last week, we talked about that fear of success, the fear of failure, fear of perfectionism, or doing perfectionism, imposter syndrome, and negative self-talk. So those are all mindset beliefs and behaviors that will sabotage you. Another one is catastrophizing. I can't say it. Catastrophizing. Anyway, it's when you think the worst. It's when you go to the place where you hear something. Like, let's say you hear some news from your doctor or your financial advisor, or you hear news about some relationship or your relationship or your business, and you go to worst case scenario. And so when you go to the worst case scenario, you are doing what they call catastrophizing. Yes, I can say it. I'm laughing at myself. See, you got to have a sense of humor, because if you don't have a sense of humor, what good is it? So anyway, look, I'm not perfect. So I'm having fun with you. I enjoy doing this for you, and I have fun. So, and then the other thing that's really important is the all or nothing thinking. And I have this so often with my clients. And again, this always happens, or I'm always in this place, or I never have I never have enough money, or I never feel good enough, or that all or nothing thinking. And when you are in that all or nothing thinking, that is self-sabotaging behavior. So add that to the list. And like I said, you'll get a list, you'll have an opportunity. So I will get that for you. So another part of the list is avoidance and procrastination. We talked about that last time. Now, add to that we talked about last time was analysis paralysis. So if you feel, or you are, okay, your behavior, and you start overthinking every decision until you stop, you freeze. You are overthinking everything, and you end up freezing. And that's analysis paralysis. And also with that is that self-doubt. So, and we'll talk more about that, because that really affects your when you don't feel like you can trust yourself, you're in that self-doubt. And that will lead to you avoiding things or procrastinating. Another one is avoiding feedback. So you don't ask for feedback because you're afraid of the criticism, or you're afraid of what other people are going to say. So you never ask for help, you never ask for support, and you don't ask for feedback. That's a self-sabotaging behavior. Waiting for the right time. If you never start because you're waiting for the right time, and this could be starting anything. It could be starting something that you feel passionate about, but you don't start because you're waiting to be perfect. You're waiting to get it right. You're waiting for it to be the perfect time. Then you may never have it. You may never accomplish it, and you may never get it done. So, overdoing and overcommitting. So adding to the list that I said last week was overgiving, doing too much for your friends, your family, your clients, and at your expense. at your expense. And then there's micromanaging. So if you or anyone you know is a micromanager, that is actually self-sabotaging behavior, because you don't delegate. And this is control patterns. You don't delegate because you don't trust others to do a decent job. But what happens for you is then you start feeling maybe angry or frustrated or overwhelmed because you're not allowing yourself to get the help and support that you need in order to keep moving forward or being supported. And then filling your schedule. So instead, like, you fill your schedule with perhaps meaningless activities instead of doing what really matters. So another thing is habits and destructive coping, which it's really not coping. It's destructive patterns and behaviors that sabotage you. So is procrastinating. So what that really means is, if you are a person who cleans so that you are avoiding other things that you need to do. Now, let me make this really clear. I'm not talking about cleaning. I'm not talking about doing what you need to do to clean your house or clean your office or clean whatever. I'm talking about over cleaning and constantly cleaning instead of doing other things. Seeking, and then there's perpetual multitasking. So if you're staying busy and not moving forward, then that is a self-sabotaging behavior. Another one is chronic lateness. If you're chronically late, it is you're resisting, or perhaps one of the reasons is you could be resisting commitments. Or there could be other things, like it could be being chronically late can also be what I call a passive aggressive behavior, which is you acting out your anger instead of being able to actually deal with it and communicate. That is a self-sabotaging pattern. And I see Mickey asks, when do you notice it is a problem? I think, Mickey, are you talking about the cleaning part? Or are you talking about another behavior? Or are you talking about all of the behaviors? Yes, the cleaning. Okay. So and here's the thing. When I start going over the things that you can do to help you overcome the self-sabotaging behaviors, one of the biggest things is the awareness piece. So if you're cleaning, and if you're cleaning something that's clean, then you may look at, okay, what's really going on? And it's also asking yourself, am I doing this behavior? And this is for all the behaviors. Am I doing this behavior to avoid doing something else? So that is one of the ways that you can look at, is this a problem? So you can start asking yourself, and we're going to be talking more about the awareness piece, because the awareness piece is crucial in being able to shift the self-sabotaging behavior. If you do not become aware that you have a self-sabotaging behavior, or you're not sure, then It's becoming aware. And if you're not clear, it's starting to ask yourself the questions. And if you're still not clear, then you may need to reach out for support to a coach, a mentor, and depending on what the behavior is, a therapist or a counselor. It all depends on what the behavior is. And then there's like a scale of destructivity. If it's really a destructive behavior like alcoholism, you're going to need help and support outside yourself. It's not something, or any kind of like gambling or addictive behaviors where you start feeling out of control, where you cannot stop. There's something else that you need help and support in order for you to make the shifts that you need to move you in the directions that you want to go in, and to really support you in moving forward and getting healthier. So another relationship patterns, and I see the questions came in, and I'll get to them in a second. I just want to finish going over and if you have any other questions about anything else I'm saying, I will go back. So relationship patterns, self-sabotaging relationship patterns would be isolation, like withdrawing from people or friends or loved ones when you really need to connect, and withdrawing because you're hiding or you're shrinking, and instead of making that connection is a self-sabotaging behavior. So that's something to be aware of also. If you're constantly seeking external validation, if you're seeking that external validation and you're not trusting yourself at all, and you need that approval, you need the external validation because you can't find it within yourself, yes, that's a self-sabotaging behavior. And it's important to be able to work on healing what's going on for you so that you can then start healing those deeper patterns. And then tolerate, this is important too. These are all important. Tolerating boundary crossing. If you're in a relationship and you are letting others take advantage of your time, your energy, your kindness, then that is a self-sabotaging behavior. And one of the ways you can start noticing, if you start feeling really angry and resentful of other people because they keep asking you, you're not setting the boundaries, and if you say no or I cannot, and they keep crossing it and they're not hearing you and they're not listening, and then there's a dynamic in the relationship that's unhealthy, and your job is to take care of yourself and do what you need to, and to stop the behavior. Like, it's really about you setting those very clear boundaries and limits. And then business specific sabotage is starting and stopping. So launching something and then it never gets launched, or neglecting your finances. And this is for everybody. Neglecting your finances, you're not tracking your income or expenses, you're avoiding looking at money, you're not budgeting, or you're not taking care of yourself financially. So so those are important things to look at. And overcomplicating your offers, and if you're making it too complicated that people can't understand, then you're sabotaging yourself. And not following up, that's a huge common self-sabotaging behavior that I find with clients, is if you're not following, and there's a saying called fortune is in the follow-up, and if you're not following up, that's a self-sabotaging behavior. and hiding behind certification. So if you keep getting training and you keep looking for learning and not really doing and putting yourself out there, that's a self-sabotaging behavior. So I know a lot of questions came in as I was talking, so we are going to get to those questions. And then I will go to the remedies, or what you could start doing to help you to start taking care of yourself and stop the self-sabotaging behaviors. So Misty says, is it a matter of prioritizing me too? So it all depends. When you have a self-sabotaging behavior, there's levels of it that you're going to need to look at. So asking yourself questions like what I was talking about before, if you're doing a behavior like the over cleaning, or you're doing something like scarcity thinking, and what's really going on here, and what do I really need, or what am I avoiding, or what am I really fearful of? Asking those kinds of questions can help you understand what's going on underneath. And I see that Anastasia was talking about how deep these patterns go. And so it's really, there's different levels of the patterns. And so there may be prioritizing your behaviors, like if part of the help that you could have that would help you in overcoming the self-sabotaging behaviors could be organizing your time and prioritizing what you need to do. But here's the thing. With self-sabotaging behaviors, they're often subconscious, unconscious patterns. You're not necessarily aware that you're doing it. And so you may not even be able to prioritize that I need to do this, 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 and this. So if you're going to cleaning, or I know a common one, social media, all right? How many of you, and here's the thing, I'm not saying don't go on social media. I mean, I appreciate all of you on social media right now coming in through the Facebook group. But if you're doing the scrolling and you're scrolling and you really need to be doing something else, the scrolling is a way of avoiding something. That's where, see, that's what the question is, am I avoiding doing something if doing this behavior, is this keeping me from avoiding something else? So that's what I support you in asking. Now, Anastasia also asked the difference between wanting to do something and blowing it off with an excuse. So the difference between wanting to do something and blowing it off, yes. And what happens is sometimes when you are doing the self-sabotaging, behaviors, you will find excuses. And one of those behaviors is excuses. And, I'll just clean instead, or I'll just scroll instead, or I'll just eat instead, or I'll eat sugar instead, or I'll do this instead of what I really need to be doing. So it's really learning the difference between when you're needing to prioritize, or when you're wanting to do something, and when you're really like fearful of it, blowing it off, like you said, or avoiding it, procrastinating. And that's the self-sabotaging behaviors. Okay. Mickey asked, sometimes you need to get away from family because they are toxic. Yes, and that is true. And like if you have family who are toxic, like not listening to your boundaries, and you continue to set boundaries and they are not listening and you're tolerating it, there's a dynamic that's not healthy for you. And it's about you making a choice and having, if they're able to hear you enough so that maybe you can have a conversation where, this is what's coming up for me and this is what I'm feeling. And in order for us to stay in relationship, I need for you to respect my boundaries. But if they cannot hear that, then you may need to leave the relationship. And that's something that you need to look at and to discover. What do you need? And this is a part of, self-care, is what do you need to do to take care of yourself in your life and in your relationship? So definitely that's important for you to ask. So, and like I said, Anastasia asked how deep the patterns go. So there's different levels of it. And Misty says, when you need a boundary, but they don't at the same time may cause another issue. Yes, that is true, Misty. What might happen is when you're saying no, or you're setting a boundary around time or doing something, and that may cause another issue, that other person may get angry, or they may guilt you or shame you. And in order to have a healthier dynamic in the relationship, you're going to need to confront that and deal with that so that you can then be able to do the self-care that you need to. So yes, it may cause another issue in a relationship, but then again, you need to look at it. Okay, so I'm going to say it's either you or them. Now, I don't mean totally being selfish. I mean self-care. Okay, so this is really important. It's called essential. I call it essential self-care. And setting your boundaries and learning to say no and taking care of yourself is essential self-care. Now, if they can't tolerate it, or they're not supporting you, or they're not hearing you, then you really need, and you're not even able to talk to them about it, then there's something going on in the relationship you need to look at. But if you can talk, this is what's coming up for me, this is what I'm feeling, and this is what I need in order for us to continue our relationship and to have a healthier dynamic in the relationship. And learning to have that healthier dynamic is overcoming the self-sabotaging behavior. But you can't control another person's reaction. And again, I mean, and if, there's this balance. I really believe there's a balance. If you're an overgiver, you need to stop, like you need to balance that. Oh, because that was one of the self-sabotaging behaviors, is overgiving. And you're giving and you're giving, and they're taking and they're taking. There's an imbalance in the relationship. But you, as a giver, need to learn how to receive. You need to learn how to communicate. You need to learn how to set those boundaries. And yeah, it may cause other challenges in the relationship. And again, self-care. Now, if you are someone who's a taker, or someone who has been labeled selfish, and I work with this very gingerly, because very often people will say, "Oh, you're so selfish," when you're really doing self-care. But if you are always taking, or you're not ever giving, then you need to look at, because that could be a self-sabotaging behavior too, and could be hurting your relationship. So the healthy way to be is in balance with giving and taking. It's learning how to find the balance point in your relationships. So hopefully all of that helps, and you can let me know what, if there's any questions around that. So let's talk about breaking free. What do you need to do to break free from these sabotaging patterns? So the first one that I'm going to talk about is the awareness. You cannot change a pattern or a behavior if you're not aware of it. So it's going to be really important for you to start becoming really aware that you're doing this behavior. And until you become aware, then you're not going to be able to change it. Now, some people may end up having people that may say something to them. Now, and again, because it all depends on what's said and how it's said and what the intention is behind it. There's a lot of pieces here. But if somebody is saying to you, and it's coming from a concern place, coming from a place of concern for you, and it's not coming from a hidden agenda or them wanting you to change because they want you to do something for them. Okay, so that's kind of where it's looking. But if somebody's coming to you with a concern for your behavior, then be open. Be open to, is this really a behavior I need to be concerned about? Now, some of you, if it's a addictive pattern, or it's a behavior and you underneath, now ultimately I'm going to tell you, you know your truth. You know certain behaviors that you do that are repetitive behaviors that are avoiding. You're avoiding problems, you're avoiding doing, you're avoiding taking action. And if you're in that place and somebody says something to you, they're trying to support you and help you, then it's something for you to be open to. Now, but what I also want you to know is that I really believe that when you're ready to overcome a self-sabotaging behavior, and you're going to start becoming more aware of it. And I'm hoping this show can help you. And I'm also hoping that when I get the checklist, that will also help you to start looking at behaviors and start asking yourself and start becoming more aware of the behaviors you're doing that may be avoiding you from doing something else. So what you can do is, when you start becoming aware, is you can start a journal or a list of like, oh, I have a behavior that I do need to deal with. And when you start noticing the behavior, now here's the thing. If you're not in a place where you can do something about it, I would write it down. Like if you're in the middle of a meeting, or you're at work, or you're, or something else is going on, carry a little pad with you, write it down, so that when you are able to take time to start asking yourself these questions. What was I doing? What was I feeling A lot, and I'm going to tell you, a lot of self-sabotaging behaviors happen because you don't want to feel. Many of us, I would say every human being or most human beings, will do some kind of behavior not to feel certain things, certain emotions. So it's about you getting in touch. What is it you're really feeling? And what was the thought that you were thinking? Like if you're in scarcity thinking, oh, I'm thinking there's not enough. And here's the thing. And I'm going to add this. This is coming to me now, and I really want to support all of you. When you're in the behavior or you're like scarcity thinking, and you're in the problem, then that can exacerbate and continue to either escalate the behavior, the self-sabotaging behavior, or you will continue to do it. What you want to ask yourself is, what can I do to heal this? Or how can I solve this problem? So instead of going deeper into the rabbit hole of fear, it's asking, what can I do to heal, and what can I do to overcome this problem? A couple of things also to ask yourself. So another way that you can take your power back is reclaiming your power. So how do you do that? So when you're in a behavior, and instead of reacting automatically, you want to ask the question, what am I really afraid of? Especially if the feeling that you're aware of is fear. Now, it may be another emotion. And even if you're feeling angry or guilt, there may be fear underneath. So it's really keep asking the questions of yourself. So you want to ask, what am I really afraid of here? And if I really trusted myself, what would I do differently? And what do I really want? So you notice a self-sabotaging behavior. What do you really want to be doing? What do you really want in your life? And avoiding the feelings is not going to help you. You may need to reach out for support. If you're avoiding getting supported, that is a self-sabotaging behavior. And so that's really important. So, and often fear does hide behind self-sabotage. And learning how to create the questions and pause the interrupt will give you empowering new choices. And remember that when we've talked about this in past shows about how when you're in that reaction mode, you're reacting and you're in that reaction space. And so what you want to do is stop and pause and reflect so that you're going from reaction so that you can respond. So that you can respond. And so all of these, so Today we continued, and we're gonna do a part 4 because type in the chat if there's more pieces around the self-sabotaging behavior, more understanding you want that maybe I haven't covered yet. I would really like to hear from you if there's other pieces that you would like to know about that I haven't gotten to. And I'm going to continue next week on more tools that you can use to help you overcome those self-sabotaging behaviors. And so we went through more. Okay, Anastasia says there may be more, but I don't know what they are. All right, well, you know what? What I will do, Anastasia, is I will continue to see if there are more that come up or that I can explore or that I discover, and I can bring more in next week. And I'm hoping by next week I'll have the PDF so that you can then download and do a checklist. If there are more, Misty says, if there are more, we would like to know. Okay, I hear you. I am going to be on the lookout for more behaviors. Okay, so definitely I will be looking for that. Okay, thank you for letting me know. And Mickey said that would be great. Okay, cool. So to be continued. And so we just started talking about some of the ways that you can help you to overcome the self-sabotaging behaviors, like the awareness piece and having that awareness, the pause and reflect so that you can make a choice from going from reaction to response. Okay, so those are a couple of tools to use when you want to overcome those behaviors. So to be continued next Thursday on the Inspired and Empowered Living TV show and podcast for a thriving business and life. And we're live at 5 o'clock on Thursdays. 5 o'clock p.m. on Thursdays. And on w4wn.com, my YouTube channel, and talk4tv.com. And you can find the podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, and Apple and Amazon, and many more. And so next week we will continue to work on these self-sabotaging behaviors, helping you to discover more and understand and learn more about behaviors so that you can come into more self-awareness, because that is the key to changing them. And so I wish you an inspired and empowered day, an inspired and empowered evening and week. Have a great one, everybody. Bye for now.